Printing lithostones. So my press is all set, my registration set, and so now I need to get ready to roll this up and start proofing it. So once again, following the law, so lithotine to remove all that roll-up ink, because now I'm going to be replacing it with this shop mix ink, which is a little bit stiffer. So I want to make sure all that material's out of the stone. Remember, there'll be a little bit of a stain here. Then I'm going to follow that up with the asphaltum, the A in law. And remember, I just need to apply a nice thin, even film here. If the asphaltum is a little bit thick, remember I loosen that up with just like a drop of lithotine to make sure it flows over the image. So nice, even brown film, putting new grease in to replace the old grease that I took out. So while that's drying, once again, prepping the leather roller, laying out my slab. This is shop mix this time, not the roll-up ink. And then I can hit this now with water and start rolling it up. So first, super wet paper towel, taking off all that gunk off the top, damp paper towel to remove some of that excess dirtiness, and then my clean sponge. So sponging, keeping damp, not wet, and I'm rolling up the image until it looks close to the way that I drew it. It'll probably be a little bit lighter on this initial roll up so that I can start proofing. I'm going to go through the process of proofing until on newsprint until the image is showing up the way that I want it to. And then from there, I'm going to move onto a scrap sheet of decent paper before moving to my final good sheets of paper. So I'm rolling it up really slowly, and I'm going to continue to make trips to the slab as needed, ensuring that I'm keeping this damp the whole time so that I don't get any dry roll issues. Remember, if I do get dry roll issues, if we see areas of your image starting to fill in, it might be due to a dry roll. So the solution, as shown in the plate roll-up video, is to do a snap roll. So I'm happy with the way the image looks right here, so I'm going to do my first proof. So I have 4 sheets of newsprint. Make sure I put fresh grease on the tempin if there's not already grease on there. And then I'm going to crank it up to my first line that I've marked on the press bed, pull my pressure down, crank it through, make sure I stop on my second mark, don't roll off the stone, release the bed, disengage the bed, and then pull the bed back, pull up my newsprint, make sure to save the extra sheets that I didn't proof on, and then I can pull this image back and see how the first proof looks. You can see here it looks pretty close to the way that I actually want it, but I'm gonna start counting my trips to the slab and number of rolls. So you can see there's 1, 2, 3 trips to the slab, and I'm doing about 6 rolls, and then I do my second proof. I'm gonna take that second proof and I'm gonna compare it to my first. My camera above me actually ran out of memory, so that's why I have this angle and only this angle now. But I'm pretty happy with the way that second proof came out. It's a little bit darker than the first one. So now I can move on to a sheet of good paper. So remember to follow your T and bar marks. Line the T up first, brace that, and then drop it down to the bar. So you can see I kind of hold it like a U shape, lining up the T first with the T, the capital top of the T lines up with the flat edge of the paper. 2 sheets of newsprint, my tempin, cranking it up to my first mark on the press bed, engage pressure, crank up until the second mark, release pressure, disengage the press bed, pull it back, re-engage the press bed. And I can see what my first proof looks like. If you've not done the correct amount of rolls, you can see I'm comparing it to my my last print on newsprint. This first one might show up a little bit light, so that's why I like to use a scrap sheet of paper first, of good paper, to really ensure that I have the right number before I use my good sheets. So you can use those from the scrap paper bin, or the back of an old print that you don't care about anymore. And then make sure you take your prints and move them over to the drying rack. Start at the bottom and work your way up. So I tuck in the corner, so remember, so that as I flip this up, the print doesn't slide back. If I don't do that, you can see the print just falls. So if somebody else comes in and is kind of careless, your prints will maybe fall behind the rack. So I'm following that same amount of rolls, and then I'm going through my entire edition. So I'm printing an edition of 5 or 6. You should be printing 4 for this class. And then after I print, prints go in the rack, and I just continue to run through that process. If the image starts looking light, I might need to add ink to my slab or increase the amount of rolls. So I always want to constantly be comparing the print that I just printed to my very first print that is my guide for how all of them should be showing up. So you can see I just keep moving through this, printing as many as I need to. I think right there I just added some ink to the slab, probably because things got a little bit light, but still repeating the same number of rolls and trips to the slab each time until I have wrapped up my edition. And then I will be cleaning up all my materials here. So the next video is color lithography.